Hello everybody, welcome again to this week's Sunrise Sunday School. I hope you all had a great week. It was kind of a week to get back into the swing of things, right? Put the holidays away and really begin the new year. Mr. Peter, what is that you have? Does it have anything to do with our story this week?
Yes, it does, Miss Kathy.
It does. That is quite a snake, I think. All right, well, let's get on and see what this is all about this week. Today, our story is about a man who allowed himself to be guided by God, even when it seemed to the outside world to be rather ridiculous. Can you guess who I'm talking about? It's somebody from the Old Testament, from the very first book, which is
Genesis, Miss Kathy.
Genesis. We're going to look at the well-known story of Noah and the ark. We read the account of Noah and the great flood in between Adam and Abraham. Now, a good number of years had passed since Adam and Eve left the Garden of Eden, and the world was now full of people. Lots of people who lived a very long time, much longer than we live now. Mr. Peter, do you know who the Bible tells us was the oldest person ever? Do you know his name?
Methuselah, Miss Kathy?
Close. Yes, Methuselah. And he lived until he was 969 years old. I don't know that I'd want to live that long. Anyway, sadly, most of these people turned away from God as the years went by and began to live really wicked lives. They would hurt each other, kill each other. There was lots of violence. They would steal. Just to name a few of the bad things they did. It was really, really awful, and definitely not what God had intended for his world. And in the end, it got so awful that God had to do something about it. You see, because God is without sin and completely good, he cannot accept wickedness or tolerate evil. But that's one of the best things about God. We always know where he stands and where we stand. It's good versus evil, and God is always good. So here we have Noah. Well, was he perfect? Noah, he wasn't. He was human just like us. But God knew his heart and knew that despite all the wickedness around him, Noah and his family had continued to trust in God and follow him. And because of that, God chose Noah and chose to save him from the coming disaster. So can you imagine what it must have been like for Noah when God spoke to him and told him of his plans for the whole earth? It must have been pretty shocking, don't you think? I would think so. Yet we don't read that Noah questioned God. The Bible simply says Noah did everything just as God had commanded him. Noah was guided by God and he obeyed. Mr. Peter, do you know how long God gave Noah to build the ark?
Let's see, maybe about 100 years, maybe
No,
more.
It was a little more. It was actually 120 years. Can you imagine starting a project and it taking that long? I can't. But why would he give him that many years? Well, despite God judging the sins of the people, he's such a loving God that he wanted to still give them a chance to turn back to him. 120 years chance. That's what he gave him. That can't have been easy for Noah. Think of all the ridicule he had to endure as he built this giant boat. Oh, that crazy old man, still working on that ark. You think he'll ever finish? He's not even near any water. What's he going to do with it? But Noah never gave up and never gave in. And that's a true witness to his faith in God. If you read the story, you'll see that God didn't just say to Noah, build a big boat. No, he gave him the exact dimensions and how it was to be put together. Noah didn't have to figure that out for himself. He just got to work. So how big was this boat? Do you know? Mr. Peter, how long is a football field?
320 feet, Miss Kathy.
360 feet.
60 feet.
360 feet long. And how wide is a football field?
What is it, Miss Kathy?
It's 160 feet wide. So get a picture in your mind of the size of a football field. And imagine maybe you're standing under the goalpost or at the halfway mark. Now imagine that field half as long again. The ark was 450 feet long, 1.5 times the length of a football field. but it was only about half the width. It was 75 feet wide. So that kind of gives you an idea. It was very long and quite thin. In fact, the Hebrew word for ark can be translated as a box or a storage chest, which is exactly what it was intended to be. And how tall was it? Well, God told Noah to build it 45 feet tall. How many stories is that?
4.5 stories, Miss Kathy.
4.5 stories. So he could build in 3 decks, an upper, a middle, and a lower. I've got a picture here that shows kind of what it might have looked like, if you can see there. It's a little different from our normal, how we normally envisage the ark, but that could have been what it was like. Long, thin, and quite tall. So the 120 years came to an end, and the people had still not repented and turned back to God. How sad that was. But God told Noah, now is the time to load up the boat with food and to start getting onto the boat for themselves. Well, who was the food for? Obviously themselves, right? Noah and his family. But who else had God told Noah would be joining them on the ark?
The animals, Miss Kathy.
All the animals, that's right. And here's the fun part. What animals can you name that you think would have been on the boat? Have you got some, Mr. Peter?
I do, Miss Kathy.
What you got there?
An alligator, Miss Kathy.
That's an alligator.
Can I sing a song, Miss Kathy?
Yeah, you sing the song.
Green alligators and long neck geese, a humpback camel, find a humpback camel, and a chimpanzee, cats and rats and elephants, and sure as you're born, don't you forget the unicorn.
Do you have a unicorn?
No, Miss Kathy.
Well, you got a donkey though,
Donkey.
right? You got a donkey. All right. What have I got here? I've got a panda, and I've got an ostrich. Got any others?
Chicken, Miss Kathy.
Chicken. All right.
Yep.
I think we've got a duck here too. The monkey again?
Go the monkey again, Miss Kathy.
The monkey again. Lots and lots and lots of animals. I think I read somewhere, somebody has estimated there were maybe 35,000 animals on this boat. Miraculously, God made all these animals come to the boat. Noah didn't have to go out and round them up. And can you imagine what a racket that must have been as they all got on and getting them into their pens on each floor? I think somehow God must have calmed them down and made them do what Noah and his family wanted, don't you? Otherwise it would have been complete chaos. And then came the rain. But not just the rain from above. The Bible tells us that God opened the springs of the great deep, so the earth was flooded from above and below.
Miss Kathy, was there any rain before?
No, the earth had never seen rain. So those poor people that had not turned back to God, they would have had no experience of rain before this. And how many days did it rain for?
40 days, 40 nights.
40 nights, that's right, until all the tops of the mountains were covered and nothing was left alive on the earth. Well, what kind of living creatures didn't have to go on the ark, though?
Where's it at, Miss Kathy?
There it is. The fish, that's right, all the fish and the sea creatures. Now they had a vast sea in which to swim and nobody trying to reel them in.
No.
They must have had
a whale of a time.
That's right. You could say the world was their oyster.
Oh, gee. I'm sure God had a porpoise.
I'm sure he did.
He didn't do it just for the halibut.
No, he didn't. All right, enough with the corny jokes. We know that once the rain stopped and the flood waters began to go down, it was still months before Noah and his family and the animals were allowed to leave the ark. But again, Noah was willing to be guided by God and wait until it was perfectly safe for them to disembark. Not until God said, now you can come out, did they make a move. Yeah, I think that's a great lesson for us. Wait for God's perfect timing and don't try to rush ahead. You know, when you think about this story and look at it more closely, it really is a crazy tale, isn't it? So much of it that seems completely impossible and yet was made possible by God. And it also shows us who he is and what he is like. He's holy and righteous and cannot allow sin to go unpunished. He's loving and patient in wanting people to turn to him. He's gracious and kind in giving instructions and direction. He's all-powerful in controlling and commanding nature, and he's faithful in his promise to save us. And what promise did he give us at the very end of the story?
He'll never flood again, Miss Kathy.
He'll never flood the earth again. And what was his sign?
The rainbow.
The rainbow, that's right. Never again will God destroy the earth with a flood. Do you remember that every time you look at a rainbow? I try to think of that, I really do. It's as true now as it was then. And who is our ark? Who God sent to save us.
That'd be Jesus, Miss Kathy.
That's right. We are saved by his death on the cross and his resurrection to life. So make sure to take that offer to get on the ark and choose life. Well, that's it for this week. We've got some animals to round up. Thank you to Miss Beth Ann, who provided all the props. That was very good. Next week, we'll look at another person whose life was guided by God. But in the meantime, make sure you are asking for his help and guidance in everything. And that should be our prayer every single day, and he'll always be there to help us with that. So have a wonderful week, be safe, and we will see you next week. Take care. We love you. Bye.